Israeli airstrikes destroyed a high-rise building in Gaza that several media outlets operate out of, including the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. According to the AP president and CEO, Gary Pruitt, the situation was incredibly awful. You can tell that there's a lot of anger about this. We are shocked and horrified that the Israeli military would target and destroy the building housing AP's bureau and other news organizations in Gaza. We have long known the location of our bureau. They have long known the location of our bureau, and new journalists were there. We received a warning that the building would be hit, and once it was hit, this is what the scene looked like.
God.
That is the Al Jalal Tower. That tower is where Al Jazeera's offices were housed. The Associated Press offices were also housed in that building.
Fortunately, no journalist was harmed, and they were offered a different space to work out of thanks to the wire service that operates in France, the AFP. So they're sharing office space now because they want to continue doing their reporting on the ground. Gary Pruitt, the AP president and CEO, also said, "This is an incredibly disturbing development. We narrowly avoided a terrible loss of life. A dozen AP journalists and freelancers were inside the building, and thankfully we were able to evacuate them in time. The world will know less about what's happening in Gaza because of what happened today." Now, that again was his statement shortly after the tower was hit with an Israeli airstrike. So there's now a debate about whether or not Israel had any evidence that Hamas was operating out of that building, because their excuse for striking it was that Hamas was operating out of that building. The Associated Press is demanding evidence of that. The IDF is honestly really struggling to make people believe that they had evidence of that. But even if they did, does it make sense to strike a building that civilians are in, that international journalists are operating out of? And also, how come these journalists weren't given an opportunity to take their equipment with them? The owner of the building was on the phone with the Israeli military, begging them to allow the journalists to take their equipment, and unfortunately, they were not given that opportunity.
Yeah, look, people in Washington play childish games. Oh, maybe there was Hamas. There's a former AP reporter back from 2014 that said that Hamas might have fired rockets from near there. This is 7 years later. That's the best evidence you have? 7 years later. A former reporter at some point. And then they said, oh no, we gave the evidence to the United States government. And quote, I understand they found the explanation satisfactory. Oh, did they? Oh, first of all, it's a joke. Right? Oh, I told my best friend that the reason I punched that guy in the face was XYZ, and he found my explanation satisfactory. Yeah, of course he did. He's your best friend. US backs Israel 100% on every single issue. Right now, the United Nations, 14 out of 15 members of the Security Council are trying to pass a resolution trying to stop the bloodshed in Israel, not even condemning Israel yet. Hey, just can we stop the fighting?
Demanding a ceasefire.
Demanding a ceasefire, and the US is like, no. We don't want a ceasefire. We want to kill more Palestinians. We want to show them who's boss. We want to show them that they should give up any attempt at freedom. So that's what the US is doing. So the US found it satisfactory? Yeah, of course. The US is the most biased country in the world when it comes to Israel. I can name you dozens of resolutions that every other country agreed to except the United States when it comes to Israel. So this is the worst excuse ever. Now, let's talk about what the real reasons are for grown-ups who don't believe in childish propaganda.
I actually, if you don't mind, I would like to go to the interviews featuring Brian Stelter and a member of the IDF, a spokesperson, because I think it's important to hear from that spokesperson, and then Cenk, you can go off.
Yeah, okay? Let's do it.
Let's watch the first.
Are you able to provide proof now that Hamas was in the building?
Not only was Hamas in the building, they were actively using it to fight against Israel. They were using the infrastructure as their command center and intelligence center. It is as you said in the beginning, we deem it to be a legitimate military target, and out of consideration for human life and for the people who work there, we chose to forfeit additional military gains by surprise attacking. And instead, we did what, of course, is the right thing to do, advance warning, and allowed everybody to clear.
Can you show us the evidence? Can you hold it up? Can you show us the pictures, the intelligence you have?
That's in process, and I'm sure that in due time that information will be presented. So
but
far,
shouldn't that have happened 24 hours ago?
Again, we've said very clearly what's in the building.
Right, but if you all knew Hamas was in the building and you're about to bomb a news bureau, you could have provided the evidence an hour or two later.
Well, it's not about bombing a news bureau. It's about the fact that Hamas systematically uses civilian infrastructure for their military purposes.
So it's the same story over and over again. And I hope you guys can be understanding toward those, myself included, who are skeptical of this so-called evidence. And I have one more video to show you featuring that spokesperson, but Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, first of all, great job by Brian Stelter. Thank you for actually pressing him on that. Normally in American media, Israeli defense forces will come on, lie, and every anchor will dutifully say, yes, Hamas are the terrorists, and you guys occupying them is not at all state violence. No, God bless your hearts. Thank you for bringing the truth to us. So that didn't happen here, so thank you to Brian Stelter for doing a little bit of journalism there. In terms of this guy's nonsense, we'll present the evidence later. Yeah, that's not remotely convincing, and Stelter made a good point. If you're gonna bomb the AP News Bureau and Al Jazeera's, et cetera, and you bombed this giant building and you had all this evidence all this time, you would think that maybe you would have that prepared and say, oh, it was just a tragedy to bomb the News Bureau. We didn't, that's just, there's the last thing we wanted to do, but here's your evidence right here that we had prepared. And by the way, why didn't you tell the Associated Press before? Hey, by the way, you guys are living, are in the same building as a nest of terrorists, dangerous terrorists, right? How come you didn't tell everybody else? So no, look, if you believe, this is not about Israel. If you believe the military, official military spokespeople of almost any government in the middle of a conflict, I mean, you're not very bright. Okay, the Pentagon lies 24/7 in the middle of conflicts. The Israeli Defense Forces does. Again, you could name any country, the Saudis, Turks, Iraq, Afghanistan, it doesn't matter, okay? Oh, the military says that they did, as they killed all those people, they did a perfectly great thing. As they destroyed the news bureau, they were perfectly justified. Look, guys, before we go to the next clip, they were shooting out of that building. I don't mean shooting guns or rockets. They were shooting video of the carnage in the city.
Yep.
One of the best vantage points in the city was on top of that building. That's why the Associated Press and Al Jazeera were both in that building. Among the reasons why is because they shot video of the bombs landing, Israeli bombs landing in the middle of Gaza Strip from on top of that building. And now they have no equipment, they don't have no roof because the building's gone, and they have no ability to report war crimes. If you think that has nothing to do with the fact that they bombed that particular building, now, you're so biased, you literally can't see straight. And so there's no point in trying to talk to you. Any rational human being can see that they clearly targeted the media for that specific reason.
One more video, it's the same IDF spokesperson.
Israeli intelligence has presented the intelligence to the United States, that the Biden White House knows about this intelligence. Can you confirm that report in the Jerusalem Post?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I don't know what they based that report on.
Sir, what about a timeline for the proof that you say will be provided? Today, tomorrow?
No, I cannot commit to that either. I don't know. I know that we're in the middle of fighting here. Our civilians are being bombarded by, up until now, 2,900 rockets. We have 9 dead Israeli civilians, 1 dead soldier. The country is under constant, relentless bombardment. Civilians are in shelters. 5-6 million Israeli civilians are in shelter almost the entire day. So yes, it's very important, and I understand that many people are very concerned about it. I am sure that Israeli officials will get to it as soon as possible, but now, the order of the day is to beat Hamas and to overcome the military challenges that are life-threatening for our civilians.
Yeah. The defense minister for Israel, Benny Gantz, very transparently, openly said that Gaza will burn. The IDF spokesperson there mentioned that there are 10 dead Israelis as a result of the rocket fire coming from Hamas, but fails to mention that there are literally hundreds of Palestinians, including women and children, Palestinian civilians who have died as a result of the relentless bombardment of airstrikes coming from the Israeli military. I think that context matters. And real quick, what Brian Stelter was referring to at the very beginning of that clip was an article that was published by the Jerusalem Post. The headline is, Israel showed us smoking gun on Hamas in AP office tower, officials say. But what's also fascinating about this is that Anthony Blinken, who's Secretary of State and is certainly not a fan of the Palestinians, has not done anything to defend them and has only gone out to bat for the Israeli government, said this. Breaking, US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says he has not seen any Israeli evidence of Hamas operating in a Gaza office building that Israel destroyed in an airstrike. The building housed the Associated Press, broadcaster Al Jazeera, and other media.
If you can't get Blinken to confirm what you're saying, that means you never presented any evidence. It missed the Secretary of State, the United States Secretary of State, the evidence, secret evidence that you presented and claimed on their behalf they were satisfied with. Then Blinken actually comes out, a 1,000,000,000% supporter of Israeli right-wing government, and comes out and goes, nah, I didn't see any evidence. Okay, honestly, they should, again, Stelter did a great job of questioning there, but they honestly shouldn't even have the IDF spokesperson there. It's totally useless. You're never gonna get anything but propaganda. Here, I'll ask you a question. Would it be okay to have Hamas's military leader or military spokesperson on there saying, the Israelis had it coming, and that, and the kid that we killed, they killed 10 people, one of them was a kid in Israel. It was a legitimate military strike, and you know what? The kid shouldn't have been there. Israelis are hiding behind their kids, and so we were right to do it, and it's all Israel's fault. No, people would say, no, you can't. That get terrorist, right? So, and here's another thing I'm done with: the word terrorist. So when you have no power, you're a terrorist. When the state crushes you, you're a terrorist. When you have all the power in the world and you drop any bomb you like on any family you like, you're not a terrorist. Wait, the states, America, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, you name it. The states kill way more than the so-called terrorists. They kill way more civilians than the so-called terrorists. And then they say, no, the powerless are the ones that deserve their deaths, and we will call them terrorists, okay? And us, we are legitimate state actors, and we are to be cherished. And if we kill civilians, it doesn't count. It only counts when they kill civilians. No, you guys are all liars. So I'm here to tell you the reality. No, both sides kill civilians, and in every conflict of my lifetime, Israel has killed 10, 20, sometimes 100 times more civilians, and then pretended that the other side are the terrorists, and for the specific reason of killing civilians. If you can't see the lie in that, you're trying super hard not to. So you can come out with me with all these things of, no, I'm gonna call you dirty words. I don't care. I care about those kids. And if you don't care about them, all those civilians and all those kids being killed, there's something morally wrong with you. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.